Buckle up, history buffs. You're about to dive into a shocking tale from 1893 when the British Royal Navy treated the Mediterranean Sea as their lifeline to India. And they were not messing around, assembling an elite force, making their Mediterranean fleet nearly unbeatable. As part of their annual boot camp, this maritime powerhouse, comprising 11 mighty vessels including 8 battleships and 3 cruisers, was putting its skills to the test near present-day Lebanon's Tripoli on June 22, 1893. But little did they know, their training drills would turn into a catastrophic nightmare, resulting in one of history's deadliest shipwrecks. And what lies within its sunken remains has left experts spooked. Let's set sail into one of history's most baffling maritime disasters as we uncover a tragic day in the Mediterranean fleet's rigorous training exercises under Vice Admiral Sir George Tryon. Known for his disciplined and no-nonsense approach to fleet operations, Tryon was hell-bent on keeping his sailors sharp. Even before the dawn of wireless communication, back then, orders were relayed through a combination of signal flags, semaphore, and those early versions of flashlights we know as signal lamps. With such high stakes in manual communications, Tryon introduced an innovative ship handling system known as the TA method, where TA stands for turn away, a groundbreaking approach to complex maneuvers that relied on minimal signals. As Vice Admiral Sir George Tryon masterminded another round of rigorous training exercises in June 1893 with the Mediterranean fleet near Beirut, he set his sights on a daring turning maneuver that would put every ounce of skill and coordination to the test. His vision was for 2 columns of ships to shrink their gap from a safer distance to just 400 yards, an incredibly tight squeeze by any standard. But Tryon, aboard his flagship HMS Victoria, had other plans. He pushed for 6 cables, or about 1,000 meters between the vessels. This aggressive approach raised eyebrows among seasoned officers who voiced their concerns over the proposed narrow margin. But Tryon remained resolute in his vision, leaving everyone to wonder what would unfold next in this high-stakes maritime ballet. The day's maneuvers took a hair-raising turn at 15 o'clock when Vice Admiral Sir George Tryon ordered the fleet into action. But there was a catch. No prearranged signal had been given. This reckless decision amplified the risk of collision as the ships navigated the intricate dance of turning together in perfect order. The move signaled that the starboard column would maintain its sequence, significantly increasing the danger and complexity of the maneuver. It seemed Tryon meant to have the divisions swap places, with their relative positions preserved, but some historians speculate he might have actually intended for one division to execute a wider turn outside the other, an idea suggested by the Royal Navy's analysis. The stage was set for disaster as 2 columns of ships, just 200 yards apart, prepared to execute an intricate maneuver that would either be a masterclass in coordination or a catastrophic collision. An outside turn, which would have seen the ships maintain their distance by turning wider and finishing 400 yards apart, seemed like a sound strategy won. But it required precision timing with one column turning before the other. Instead, Lord Guilford's flag signal for both divisions to pivot inward by 16 points sent a chill down the spines of seasoned officers, who had to suppress their reservations and carry out Tryon's orders without objection. Rear Admiral Markham's hesitation was palpable as he considered signaling his doubts, but Vice Admiral Sir George Tryon grew impatient with the delay. The fleet was closing in on the shore and every second counted. The suspense was deafening as the 2 columns continued their perilous turn inward, each ship's crew bracing themselves for the inevitable impact. Yet, it seemed that no one wanted to be the first to break ranks and alter course, a stark contrast to the discipline they were known for. It wasn't until mere seconds before collision that the captains of both ships grasped what was unfolding and hesitated briefly, awaiting permission from their superiors to take evasive action, thereby defying the very training they had received. The tension mounted as Flag Captain Morris Burke repeatedly urged Tryon to order a stern turn, yet remained patient for explicit permission. The silence that followed each of Burke's pleas seemed to stretch on forever, leaving his crew in a state of heightened suspense. Finally, with mere seconds left before the fateful impact, Tryon yelled out across the waters to Markham, ordering him to alter course. But it was too little, too late, as both ships and their crews were paralyzed by fear and confusion, unable to act swiftly enough to avoid the impending disaster. As Camperdown's devastating ram tore into Victoria's starboard side just 12 feet beneath the surface, a catastrophic chain reaction unfolded. The engines stubbornly kept spinning, causing the ram to recoil and widen the gash in the hull before the watertight doors could be sealed. Tragically, only 2 minutes had passed since the collision when the ships began drifting apart. On that sweltering Thursday afternoon, when crew downtime was usually reserved for rest, all hatches and ventilation were wide open to catch a cooling breeze. Even with over 100 square feet of their hull breached, Tryon and his navigation officer, Staff Commander Thomas Hawkins Smith, held on to a glimmer of hope They still didn't think their ship would sink. Determined to save Victoria, Tryon gave the order for her to make a beeline towards the nearby shore, a staggering 5 miles away. As Camperdown pulled away, panic set in. The crew scrambled for action as water rushed in with alarming speed. With just minutes elapsed since the collision, the Victoria's deck was now awash. The open hatches had turned into funnels, flooding the ship with an unrelenting deluge. Lieutenant Herbert Heath led a small team in a desperate bid to salvage their situation, aiming to roll out a crucial collision mat along the gashed side. This makeshift patch would buy them precious time by stemming the torrent of water. However, as they began the arduous task, they found themselves wading through chest-deep water before they could even position the mat, forcing them to abandon their valiant attempt. As the minutes ticked by, disaster loomed closer. Within 5 minutes since the fateful strike, the bow had plunged 15 feet below the surface and the ship began listing severely to starboard, its gun ports now serving as pathways for the relentless influx of water. 8 minutes into the crisis, disaster unfolded rapidly. The entire fore end of the Victoria succumbed to the waters, leaving only the main deck above the surface. Meanwhile, its stern began tilting so drastically that the propellers found themselves exposed high and dry. Despite the engine room's continued operation with the engines roaring, a critical blow was struck when hydraulic power to steer failed. This left the crew helpless against their predicament, unable to turn the ship from its doomed course. Furthermore, the emergency boats stood no chance of launch as they lacked the necessary power. Amidst the chaos, Captain Burke descended below deck to assess the damage and made a decisive move by sealing off watertight doors immediately following the collision. While the engine room managed to stay dry, the reality was starkly different towards the front of the ship. Men were swept away by the relentless water surge, while others found themselves trapped behind closed doors. The clock was ticking. Disaster had unfolded so swiftly that closing off the watertight doors was no longer enough to save the ship. Captain Burke rushed back up on deck and gave a command that would change everything for his crew fall in. The sailors, now assembled, were told to turn towards the side of the sinking vessel. With one final order, they began their desperate bid for survival, abandoning ship. Just 13 minutes after impact, Victoria capsized with a deafening crash, her massive body twisting starboard as she went down. Everything loose was thrown overboard in the chaos, including precious lifeboats. The steam-powered funnels, still spewing forth their deadly cargo, saw water pouring and ignite the fiery depths of the boilers, adding to the apocalyptic scene unfolding around them. Within minutes of capsizing, Victoria slipped beneath the surface with her keel exposed, her spinning propellers posing an additional hazard to those in the water. As the ship succumbed, chaos turned to catastrophe. Most crew members managed to escape, but those trapped in the engine room met a tragic end due to lack of evacuation orders. The chaplain, Rev. S.D. Morris, R.N., left behind a heroic legacy by risking his life to care for the ill and maintain order. He went down with the ship. Eyewitness accounts likened the scene to a massive pot of boiling milk as a vast circle of churning bubbles enveloped the wreck site, deterring rescue boats from getting too close. As night began to fall on that fateful day, the survivors found themselves battling a double-edged terror: the merciless elements and the remnants of the disaster they'd just witnessed. Gunner Frederick Johnson's harrowing tale of being pulled down 3 times by the churning waters paints a vivid picture of the unrelenting danger lurking beneath the surface. Lieutenant Lorne's account of debris tossed about with tremendous force, creating a seething mass on the water's surface, only adds to the chaos. Meanwhile, Camperdown, though severely damaged, struggled to stay afloat, her ram nearly torn off and water pouring into her bow due to the delayed closure of watertight doors. Amidst this devastation, 357 crew members were rescued, but sadly 358 paid the ultimate price in one of maritime history's most tragic events. As Collingwood sprang into action to provide crucial steam launches for the rescue operations, a somber reality set in. Only 6 bodies were recovered immediately after the catastrophe. The Sultan of Turkey graciously offered a plot outside Tripoli for their hasty burial, and the survivors were swiftly transported to Malta for safety. Among those who made it out alive was Commander John Jellicoe, Victoria's executive officer, who found himself atop the chart house as the ship slipped beneath the surface. Hawkins Smith, in an act of unwavering loyalty, stayed right by his side. The force of the sinking had left him entangled in the rigging, a harrowing experience he would never forget. As he grappled with the uncertainty of Tryon's fate, history would eventually shed light on the truth nearly a decade later in August 2004, after years of intense searching. Divers Christian Francis and Mark Elliott pinpointed the wreck site of the HMS Victoria at an astonishing 40-60 feet beneath the surface. Their discovery unveiled the ship's final resting place, where its bow is now almost fully submerged and its stern stands dramatically upright. One of the most striking aspects of this find was the remarkably preserved ammunition inside the sunken vessel, a testament to the immense firepower that once lay dormant. The HMS Victoria boasted an unprecedented pair of 16 25-inch guns in a twin turret, making it a behemoth on the seas during its era, with no other British battleship ever mounting such colossal artillery. This potent arsenal, now silenced for over a century, stands as a poignant reminder of its potential and its current impotence. Now that we've delved into the tragic tale of HMS Victoria, let's ask the question: could Tryon's mistake have been avoided? Share your thoughts with us. Hit that comment button below and join the discussion. If you enjoyed this dive into history, give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more captivating stories from the past. We'll be back with another thrilling tale soon.